Remakes are terrible, but this week I watched a shot-for-shot remake of the greatest film of all time, and I loved it.
No, that's not true. That's impossible!
Empire Uncut is, of course, a special remake, because it is basically 480 different remakes.
If you choose to face Vader, you will do it alone. I cannot interfere.
I understand.
Ow. Assembled from over 1,500 fan entries, this lovingly insane 2-hour and 8-minute pastiche is the follow-up to 2010's also brilliant and Emmy-winning Star Wars Uncut, itself made from 473 remakes.
Yes, I bet you have.
So why is it that we worry about what J.J. Abrams will do to the second greatest film franchise of all time and are psyched when a baby pretends to be a Jedi? What makes fan remakes so special? Raiders of the Lost Ark, the adaptation, is of course the badass granddaddy of fan remakes. Shot over 7 summers starting in 1982 when its creators were just 12 years old, Raiders the adaptation has gained enough notoriety to be the subject of a book, a planned documentary, and a future feature film. Even Spielberg loves it. Less sure how he feels about this one.
I can see the shed. We can make it if we run.
No, we can't.
Why?
Because we're being hunted.
With the release of Michel Gondry's Be Kind Rewind in 2008, sweeted remakes like that one started appearing online.
Quoi? C'est vrai que tu parles? Non? Bah moi je vois personne d'autre, hein. Donc tu m'as parlé à moi. Si tu m'as parlé.
Some of these are amazing, but even though they pop up on best of lists for fan remakes, I don't think they really count. To start with, they're only 2 minutes long on average, and really they're an homage to an homage. Not like full-length efforts like Empire Uncut and live-action Toy Story and the Raiders adaptation. And certainly not like our RoboCop remake. The scene I really wanted to show involves RoboCop shooting like 24 would-be rapists in the dick, but we'll just leave that in the description.
Check out RoboCop!
Featuring 50 different filmmakers tackling scenes from the '87 film, our RoboCop remake is clearly satirical, mocking both the Verhoeven original and the Hollywood remake it was released alongside, which sort of makes it the perfect way of illustrating our point here. Even though MGM literally owns RoboCop, they don't really own it anymore. You do. You also own Footloose.
He holds you down, but I know you want to run.
The reason most remakes are terrible is that they exist for a single solitary purpose: to make money from a proven concept. And if you love something, seeing it shaken down like that is going to be a bummer. Conversely, fan remakes are the most elaborate possible manifestation of the opposite. Loving something so much that you want to pour all of your own time and money into a cardboard version of it. When we take ownership over our own culture, 2 or 3 really valuable things happen. 1, we make a personal connection with a piece of culture that isn't actually that personal at all, like a multi-million-dollar space opera. And in doing so, we hopefully not only connect with other people who love that thing, but realize that it's not that impossible and doesn't actually take millions of dollars to actively create culture of our own.
Someday you're gonna be wrong and I hope I'm there to see it. Punch it!
What do you think? Are fan remakes the only good remakes? Let us know what you think in the comments, and be sure to subscribe for new episodes of This Exists every week. Be excellent to each other. Last week's episode was all about vaporwave. Let's see what you guys had to say about this super cool and trendy topic. Zachary Culpepper's big complaint about the episode was that at the end of it, he still did not understand what vaporwave was. There were a few of you that said this, and I think it's worth noting that Jim, who edits the show, had the same comment when we sat down to watch the edit last week. He was like, I don't think I know anything about this. So that might be that the episode wasn't great, but I don't believe that. I think the episode was awesome. I think it actually has to do with how complicated a genre vaporwave is, because it's not just a sound that you could say like, oh, metal is this symbol. But you know, vaporwave has this weird political underpinning that is not always present, but is a key part of the genre's creation and evolution. But it's also a sound, but it's not always sampling the exact same sounds. So ultimately what I'm saying is it's all make-believe. All genres are make-believe, but I get what you're saying. Jeremy Smith was worried that us doing a video about vaporwave made it basic as fuck now, which I'm inclined to agree with, although I think there's a lot of options for you to pursue. If you check out the vaporwave subreddit, all kinds of subgenres for you to explore, like mallsoft and VHS pop and vapor meme and vapor trap, and I could actually just say totally made up words here, but those are all really real things. So pursue those, and we'll do a video on those in 2 years when it's totally done. And then they'll be basic as fuck also. Stefan B agrees with our basic premise, which was that vaporwave is the future of music, or it can be part of the future of music because of the way that it plunders sounds that are otherwise currently unmined in popular music by using sort of horrible corporate music as its base. His point is that it's not actually the music itself, but rather the visual imagery, which I think is a really interesting point. C-punk before it and other kinds of sort of internet-born genres tend to mine a very specific visual aesthetic that is very much tied to the music. And he brings in the idea of Oculus Rift and how important sort of the visualization will be in listening to music and the process of listening to music in the future. And when you listen to metal, will you be sort of in the bowels of hell? And when you listen to vaporwave, a huge part of that is the sort of Windows 95 horrid early internet aesthetic. I think it's a really interesting idea. I'm curious. It's sort of like radio. Radio never died, and radio hasn't really changed that much. And I wonder if just sort of the basic experience of listening to music will ultimately incorporate the Oculus Rift or similar devices. I'm not sure, but I think it's a really interesting idea. Roberto Liccardi makes a really relevant point about the ease with which you can actually create music like vaporwave. And in that way, I think it's a lot like punk. So punk came in the 70s and destroyed arena rock, which had become this bloated multi-keyboard mess, by making it really easy to perform and write rock and roll again, like it was in the 50s. And I think that what you see with all the sort of weird emerging vaporwave and anything sort of internet-related subgenre-rise in electronic music is that while ultimately it takes a tremendous amount of skill and talent to be able to do anything worthwhile, the barriers to entry are low again. Buying a guitar, buying an amp, getting a practice space with all your friends can be really expensive, but if you are able to sort of manipulate those sounds on a computer on your own with a program you stole or bought legally, it makes it accessible once again to sort of be a musician. And from there you can grow and sort of get expensive stuff, and that's obviously pretty cool. But I think an excellent point about vaporwave and all sort of emergent electronic genres is that hypothetically it lowers the barrier once again for a lot of different people to participate, and that is good. Bo McCravey brings up Plunderphonics, which I feel like maybe I should have mentioned within the episode, and maybe Plunderphonics just deserve their own episode, but John Oswald, who's a Canadian composer, sort of created this idea, this name for creating sound collages, and in a way, it was sort of the precursor to modern sampling. It involves, a lot of sampling. The most prominent Plunderphonics album is probably Negativland's U2, and there's a lot you can read about on the internet around that, and maybe I shouldn't direct you to it because I want you to think that I'm a genius when we do an episode on it. But it was a great point, and reading about Plunderphonics and how they relate to sort of contemporary sample culture, super, super valuable. Thanks to everyone who responded to our request about whether you wanted a Shitheel reading club or a Shitheel listening club in the form of a Goodreads or an RDO or a Spotify group. We're definitely going to pursue both of those ideas. And I'm not sure the exact form that they will take, but my goal is to have something launched for November. So if you're interested in those, thanks. And if you're just hearing about them, we talked about them in the last video. And stay tuned, I think that's going to be pretty exciting. This week's book of the week, Sam's Club, This Exists book thing, is Wolf in White Van by John Darnell of the Mountain Goats. I don't read a lot of fiction. You may have noticed in the recommendations, it tends to be nonfiction. And probably if we do the book club, it's going to be mostly nonfiction. But I read this because I love the Mountain Goats, and it's John Darnell's first novel, and I don't even really want to say anything about it except that it is so brilliant and strange. And if you are a fan of the Mountain Goats and John's narrative abilities, they are at their peak in this book. It's a brilliant and strange and disturbing tale that I just don't want to talk about without ruining it. But I cannot say enough good things about John Darnell's Wolf in White Van. So check that out, and then check out whatever we do for the Shithill Reading Club in like a couple of weeks.